Toyota, AGA Panasonic, lubrication equipment, Sani, and Lucas proudly present highlights of the Caledon 400. The cream of South Africa's off-road racing brigade converged on the peaceful eastern Free State town of Weppena for the recent Caledon 400. The Caledon was the 6th and penultimate round of the South African Off-Road Championship, and with rain an unusual commodity in the eastern Free State at this time of the year, conditions were expected to be hot and dusty. Amateur forecasters were not caught out on this score. The Caledon event saw the return to action of some veteran off-roaders. Don Vale, Robbie Walk and Greg Weevil were back in the fold. And to prove that a little technical ingenuity is still part and parcel of off-road racing, former navigator Mike Pretorius pitched in with a hybrid home-built quad racer. Also back in the fray after a long layoff through injury was top biker Yuri Human. The series leaders, R.B. Reiniker and Robin Houghton in the Bankfin Toyota Land Cruiser, the Caledon offered the opportunity to clinch this year's production vehicle championship.
Ons het 'n bietjie probleme gehad nou vir jaar met die vooras en ons gaan nou hierdie event so 'n bietjie stadiger ry en net probeer om 'n goeie plek te ry sodat ons nie weer uit vierwieldryf uitgaan nie. So ons gaan ons beste probeer.
Although they had a tight hold on the championship, Reiniker and Houghton were up against some heavyweight opposition. Rustenburg and Settler 400 winners Cassie Coetzee and Richard Leek in the Castrol Toyota Hilux, and reigning production vehicle champions Cliff Barker and Mike Redden in the Video Sport SVM Land Rover were looking to produce good results. Behind Reiniker and Houghton on the road, the Natal pair of Neil Woolwich and Paul Vermaak in the time-freight Nissan Sani were aiming for their second win of the season after a maiden national championship success in the Sugarbelt 400. Since their Bell Equipment Sugarbelt 400 success, Woolwich and Vermaak have not had much luck in a vehicle that has enormous potential. Early morning sun and dust made conditions a little tricky for the crews, and it's in these circumstances that being first on the road is a major advantage. Behind the Sani, the Eastern Cape crew of Newton Love and Colin Pote in a Nissan Safari, and the husband and wife team of Niels and Elby Lemmer in a Toyota Hilux were also having to contend with the dust thrown up by those ahead of them on the road. After winning their class on the Settler 400, the Lemmers were looking for another good finish. Springboks Cassie Coetzee and Richard Leek in the Castrol Toyota Hilux looked to be in fine fettle early on in the Caledon. The pair earned their South African motorsport colours in rallying, and Coetzee always revels in the quicker sections of an off-road race. Chasing after the Toyota in the early stages were Cliff Barker and Mike Redden in the Video Sport SVM Land Rover. The pair went into the race as reigning production vehicle champions, but have run into a few problems in the latter part of the season. Behind the Land Rover, champions-elect R.B. Reiniker and Robin Houghton were maintaining a steady pace in the Bankfin Toyota Land Cruiser, with Neil Woolwich and Paul Vermaak starting to push hard in the time-freight Nissan Sani. Following his success in the Sugarbelt 400, Woolwich is one of the few competitors to have won national off-road events on both 2 and 4 wheels. Niels and Elby Lemmer were having another good run in the Toyota Hilux, competing in Class E. After class wins in both the Toyota 1000 Desert Race and the Settler 400, the Lemmers had taken early control of the class, forcing Chris and Andrew Birkin to do the chasing in another Hilux. The Birkins were having a trouble-free run, and behind them the Eastern Cape pair of Newton Love and Colin Pote were hoping to avoid a repeat of the Settler 400 when they rolled the Nissan Safari. The only crew in with a slight chance of stopping R.B. Reiniker and Robin Houghton from winning the production vehicle category were brothers Ralph and Ray Henderson. The pair were holding down a place in the top 10 in the Printer Roller Services Ford and were running at the front of Class F. At the head of the field, there'd been a change in running order, with Neil Woolwich and Paul Vermaak now first on the road in the time-freight Sani, after Cassie Coetzee and Richard Leek lost time through a puncture. Cassie Coetzee and Richard Leek lost 4 minutes when a piece of metal in the road ripped a tyre to shreds and were trying to make up ground on the time-freight Sani. Behind the Castrol Toyota, the Bankfin Toyota Land Cruiser of R.B. Reiniker and Robin Houghton was in a solid 3rd place, with the pair driving more with an eye on winning the championship than winning the race. In another solid performance, Niels and LB Lemmer in the Toyota Hilux were fourth on the road and in complete control in Class E. The Lemmers had moved ahead of Cliff Barker and Mike Redden in the Video Sport SVM Land Rover, who lost more time with another broken brake pipe. Like Coetzee and Leek, the Barker-Redden combination were pushing hard to try and regain lost ground. At the front of the field, Neil Woolwich and Paul Vermaak looked to be well on the way to their second national championship victory. The time-freight Nissan Sani was maintaining a 2-minute advantage over the Castrol Toyota Hilux of Cassie Coetzee and Richard Leek. For the Springbok pair, there was to be trouble up ahead, with the Hilux running into a late gearbox problem that was to see them drop down to 5th overall and 4th in class. Richard Leek's wife, Renelle, expecting the couple's first child, was among the spectators and unaware of the problems waiting up ahead for her hubby. With Coetzee and Leek losing around half an hour while they sorted out the problem, Api Reiniker and Robin Houghton moved up into second place in the Bankfin Toyota Land Cruiser to make sure of the production vehicle championship. Behind them, Cliff Barker and Mike Redden in the Video Sport SVM Land Rover also benefited from the Coetzee-Leek drama, moving up into 3rd overall. The husband and wife team of Niels and LB Lemmer also scored when Coetzee and Leek dropped down the field. The Lemmers took over 4th place in an impressive performance in another Toyota Hilux and completely dominated Class E. It gave the Lemmers their 3rd class win in a row, but at the head of the field it was Neil Woolwich and Paul Vermaak who brought the time-freight Nissan Sani home for their 2nd national championship victory.
Route was a lovely route. I must say, I think it's one of the best events we've had, marking and organisation-wise. The marking was fantastic, couldn't fault it anywhere. None of the markers were pulled down. All the warnings were very good. It was a rough, very demanding route. I think you can see by time it's quite a long race. I expected it to be a lot quicker. But it was very rough. The dust was terrible. And with starting so low down, we really battled in the dust. It wasn't such a great move.
There were celebrations also for Api Reiniker and Robin Houghton, with 2nd place enough to give the pair the 1995 South African Production Vehicle Championship.
Ek is bly om weer die Suid-Afrikaanse kampioenskappe te wen. Nou die 3de keer, so ek baie bly daaroor.
So maak druk van jou 'n bietjie af vir die roof.
Ja, wel ons gaan nou sekere modifikasies doen vir die roof, so die roof kan ek voluit gaan of ek nou om klaar maak of nie. Ek gaan vir 'n wen of niks nie.
Northwest Province farmer Vickers van Deventer has dominated the Quad Racer Championship all season, building up a handy lead over Derek Johnson and Paul Breckel. With van Deventer a huge pre-race favourite to win again, much of the quad interest at the Caledon centred around the Suzuki Monster Quad, built at home by Mike Pretorius. The intrepid Pretorius usually goes off-road racing in the relative comfort of the navigator's seat in a car.
Well, I call it a monster quad, but it's actually a mobile gym because it's quite a heavy thing. It's about 250 kgs. And the reason why I built it is because I actually wanted a Banshee, but I couldn't afford the price of a Banshee. So I thought, well, I'll build myself a quad. And I had the motor, and so I just got stuck in. It took me 2 months of nearly a divorce, and there it is.
There's not much of Vickers van Deventer, but he's brought a new meaning to quad racing in South Africa. Once the quad brigade were underway, van Deventer set about disappearing into the distance on the Pro Security Yamaha Banshee. Trying to stay with van Deventer were Derek Johnson on the Yamaha dealer team Banshee and Yuri Duplessis on the Gap Racing Banshee. Enjoying championship status for the 2nd year in a row, quad racing is both fast and spectacular. Handling a quad racer at speed over rough terrain is akin to being mounted on a motorized bucking bronco. It takes a huge amount of skill and vehicle control, along with a touch of courage to race a quad, with the formula rapidly growing in popularity. The quads race 2 classes, with a category for modified vehicles and a category for standard machines. Racing a quad allows a driver to produce some virtuoso performances, but falling off is not recommended. One of the first competitors to ride in the Quad Racer National Championship was Billy Coetzee, who so far this season has had a disappointing time of it. Although highly experienced, Coetzee has battled to find consistency this year and has fallen well down in the championship stakes. While Coetzee battled along in midfield, the flying Vickers van Deventer was again demonstrating the overwhelming superiority he's built up this season. Mounted on the Pro Security Yamaha Banshee, Vickers van Deventer was busy building up a lead of nearly half an hour over Yuri Du Plessis on the Gap Racing Banshee. Du Plessis had taken over second place from Derek Johnson and was slowly but steadily starting to open up a good gap between second and third. At the back of the field, Mike Pretorius was soldiering along on the monster quad. The ungainly-looking home-built special was not as manoeuvrable as the custom-built vehicles, but Pretorius was out there having fun. Over an hour ahead of Pretorius and nearly half an hour ahead of Yuri Du Plessis, a still fired-up Vickers van Deventer came flying home to notch up another thoroughly convincing victory. Vickers van Deventer is almost unbeatable in South Africa, with Yuri Du Plessis making up championship ground by finishing ahead of third-placed Derek Johnson.
Ek het kalm gevat die eerste ronde, dit gemaak soos Willie van der Linde vir my gesê het, my borge, gesê ek my ding nie deur my gaan trek nie, ek moet mooi hou en heel hou om punte te kan kry. Dit was baie lekker, dit was die beste wedstryd wat ek in my lewe gery het. Die merk was op so hoë standaard, mens kan van niemand het vertel nie. As al die wedstryde so wil lyk, dan sal dit 'n plesier wees om te kan ry.
Going into the Caledon 400, only